It's the Go to Hell podcast. Strong opinions, weekly held. Starring Tim Curley, Colton Pierce. Now, let's join the show.
Okay. So, Venezuela.
Oh man, you want me to start with that? Or
Well, I'm just gonna say, I mean, we've talked about controversial political things before. I don't think we've lost listeners over it. So if I say anything and you disagree and I'm using really strong language, don't take that as I think you're a piece of shit, or if I say it's really stupid that I really think you're an idiot or something.
No, remember, it's strong opinions weekly held.
Strong opinions weekly held.
So they come out strong, but
But I understand. I'm going to say things and I'm going to be very firm about them, and I'm going to be very black and white about it, and that's the way I think and feel. But I also there are people that I know personally, and then people that I respect that I don't know personally on the internet who disagree with me. And so therefore I got to understand, as much as I see it this way, there's a lot of people who don't. I think the reasons for them not seeing it that way aren't good, but I don't think it's unreasonable. And let me put it this way. I think it's wrong to disagree with me, but I understand why. And I think that's important. That's why there needs to be a lot more of that in politics. Well, there even needs to be that in Christianity, frankly, on doctrine of, I understand, I think you're wrong, but I understand why you have that. And therefore, because I understand that, it makes me more appreciative, even though I think you're 100% wrong, if that makes sense.
it does make sense. If you were seeking my approval on that.
Okay. So what, do you want to start? Do you want me to start?
Sure. I'm going to start off with, what the fuck are we doing? Okay, you're going to get initial reaction. You're just going to get it, 7 days late. Or, 5 days late, 5 days late. What's today? The 6th? So 4 days late?
I don't even know.
3 days late? What the fuck are we doing? What the fuck was that?
I don't know. I don't know if anybody who's made the decision knows what the hell they're doing. I mean, we can get to that. We'll get to that, but I don't know. Well, I do know. I do know. I know what we're doing.
Yeah, I know what the fuck we're doing, but what the fuck are we doing? It's the same. It's the same question. I get it, but what? I'm disappointed. I'm extremely disappointed. I feel like
disappointed in the president, or disappointed in his voters, just all of the above.
I'm disappointed in the president. Is it out of his wheelhouse? No. Am I surprised that he would do this? No. And then not only that, but then doubling down and sending out threats afterwards to other dictators or other people. That's not great either. Was he even on an international list?
Who, Maduro?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. I mean, he might have been. I mean, he.
I know. That's what I thought. I was like, I don't think he's.
He might have been on some UN list because the UN didn't certify the election that they say that we're saying is stolen, and so there might have been that where he was, where the UN had accused him of stealing elections because they were doing election. What do you call it? But no, I mean, everything. He wasn't on anybody's watch list. And look, they'd been beating the drum on this for months and, doing the whole drug thing, which was just a joke.
Yeah, it was a joke. It's more
drugs go through Ecuador than Venezuela. But we don't do anything with Ecuador because their biggest company is some banana company, which is the one that's doing all the drug smuggling. But that guy's friends with the United States, so we don't do anything about that one.
Well, and then
Also, if we're going to indict this guy on narco terrorism, doesn't that make the United States the number one funder of narco terrorism since we're the one buying all of the narco from him? Even if you buy all that, that's what it's like. This is why, look, I love this country, but I have to at some point be like, I understand why a lot of people don't like the United States. It's like, why are you making your problem my problem? You fucked my country over because you have a bunch of white people who want to snort up cocaine, and now it's my problem.
Yeah, and that's also one of the biggest like things that people talked about where discussions have been where, you know, again, coke is actually not the big issue in the United States right now. It's fucking fent. Like,
right, but that's not anywhere mentioned in the indictment of him, nor is it mentioned by the DEA released a report like a month ago saying where all the fentanyl's coming from, and Venezuela's not mentioned at all by the DEA for fentanyl. It's kabuki theater. It's just absolute kabuki theater. Well, it's regime change. He's a dictator, blah, blah, blah. Well, it's not really regime change because we're letting the vice president stay in as long as she does what we say we want her to do. It's like, well, what is it?
yeah, well, and that's also the same thing. Like, what does this do for us? What this seemed like such a fucking ego move where it's, did you feel belittled, Donald? Did you feel belittled when he sent his oil tankers out even though you told him not to? Is that what this is? Like, that's what it was. It was, he said, I can do whatever I want. You can't do anything.
I think it's more nefarious. I think there's a cold calculation here. I think it's much more nefarious than that.
Well, but I feel like this was what elevated it, where it was just like, no, I think that there's a really big nefarious and honest. And again, I still think that it comes down to small dick syndrome with this nefarious bit that I think is coming from it. But still in this moment, it was, we'll send out the oil tankers and we'll sit there and say, you can't get us. And then we're just like, I'll show you. What the fuck?
Okay. One, Delta Force are some of the most badass dudes on the planet.
Oh, for sure.
I'm just going to say that. I have to say that.
I don't have any problems with you Delta Force people. You're doing your job.
However,
doing your commands.
I don't buy the narrative that I'm being told that this was just like some lightning quick blitzkrieg operation that went off. Somebody sold out the dude, and I've seen two theories. One was that everyone else in the government sold him out and said, "You can go. Here he is. You can come pick him up. We're not going to put up a fight," because clearly the Venezuelan army didn't put up a fight at all. I know 80 people got killed, but it just seems like because we're blowing shit up just for kicks. Like we blew up the mausoleum for Chavez. Okay, but isn't that kind of petty? Like we spent $10 million to drop a bomb on some dude's mausoleum. I've also read a theory that Maduro himself gave himself up. It was just like, come get me, because if I've read the indictments that we've put on him. I don't know that the dude ever goes to trial. I have a theory that when the midterms are up, they're going to let him go. Or they're going to send him off to exile in like Spain or something.
Maybe. Yeah,
they've charged him for illegal possession of machine guns under US law. This is where I really want to just throttle conservatives, whether you're MAGA or not, where everyone's like, "Oh yeah, these are great charges. He's been indicted, so of course we can go snatch him up." Okay, I'm old enough to remember. I love using that phrase. It's been common my entire life for conservatives to say the federal government can indict a ham sandwich. So for you to say, "Oh, he's been indicted in federal court, and so therefore we get to go in and snatch up the foreign leader, whether you think he was legitimately elected or not," is just bullshit. And then two, for a Republican administration to include in their illegal ownership of weapons under a law which most conservatives think is unconstitutional is just too much.
Yeah, it's what we did.
And then also, it's everyone, all the conservatives who are backing this are saying like, "Oh, please don't tell me about international law. International law is a joke. Blah 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 blah. Only children believe in international law." There's a level. I mean, you've talked about that. You've mentioned that. That's fine. But then don't ever use the word rogue regime, because rogue regime is based on you deciding that they violated all kinds of international laws and norms.
Exactly.
You can't have it both ways. You can't say North Korea is a rogue regime because they violated all kinds of international law, like the Non-Proliferation Treaty, and then be like, oh, international law is bullshit. It's for posers, man. Mike makes right. Go suck a dick.
Then you sound like fucking Russians. Like
Exactly. Like what's to prevent China from going in and like, we're going to take the Taiwanese president? Done.
Well, and that's my biggest thing right now is what stops Russia from going and getting Zelensky now?
This is Team America foreign policy. That's what this is. This is the dolls. This is them running foreign policy. And I love that movie, but this is what this is. It's just bullshit.
Well, and so it's
the other thing is, if you're a conservative and you believe in the Constitution and you think it's perfectly fine for a president to spend months planning an operation, he did. You know what he did? He informed the fucking oil companies that he was going to do this. He didn't inform Congress, but he told oil companies they were going to do this. You're telling, I don't want to hear anyone who's a conservative whine if you support this when they come after your guns, because guess what? If you don't care about one part of the Constitution, then you don't care about any part of the Constitution. And if you don't think going to war is coming in and kidnapping a country's leader, whether you think it's illegitimate or not, is bullshit.
That's so fucking wild.
Because
I can't believe we kidnapped a country's leader.
If China came in and you were a Democrat or Biden, they came in and kidnapped Biden, even Trump voters would be like, that's bullshit, we're going to war. No one would be like, oh, he was an old man. You take that as an act of war. You don't get to come in here and just snatch up our leader.
Now, Venezuela is not treating it as an act of war. And that's where it's like, I get those elements. I get that this guy.
Well, that's where the might makes right thing does kick in. I mean, at some point, like the law only matters is when you can enforce it, and the UN doesn't have an army, so they can vote to condemn us, and so that's where the international law part is correct. Where law only works if you have a government to use force to enforce it, or tradition. People follow tradition and agree to follow it without force of law behind it.
But if we get kicked out of the Olympics for this, I'm going to be so fucking pissed off.
I hadn't thought about that.
If you keep us from USA, Canada again, I'm going to fucking kill.
Those are great commercials, by the way, with John Hamm. Have you seen those on NBC?
No, I don't think I have.
There's a preview. They run a lot during Sunday Night Football on NBC, where John Hamm's in the locker room and he's like, "Here we go, guys. Let's go." And he's like talking up Canada, and they're like, one of them says like, "We're going to go bloody their," something about violence. And hey, wait, what? And then they show all the clips and stuff like that. And they're like, no. Like they start going through all the bad blood, and he's completely unaware. It's very clever.
That's awesome. Yeah.
And this whole thing's about oil.
It's about oil.
It's not about freedom. It's not about freeing the Venezuelan people.
Nope.
It's not about narcotics. It's only about grabbing that oil. Even on that, Trump's is like, well, you know what? The U.S. government, I might have to spend a lot of money and pay, or what did he say? He said, well, it looks like a lot of those refineries in Venezuela need to be fixed, and the oil companies are going to have to do that, which we might have to look at reimbursing them for. What?
Dude.
Guess who just bought Citgo, which is the Venezuelan oil company? Paul Singer. Paul Singer is one of the top donors to the Trump administration.
No, I mean, listen,
Also, someone put a bet made $400,000 on Polymarket like 2 hours before the invasion. They put like a very specific bet on Polymarket on the U.S. would be invading in like as very specific amount of time, and made $400,000. Who is that motherfucker? That is someone either in the government, in an oil company, or a journalist. Because the the New York Times and the Washington Post and a bunch of those papers found out about it, and the administration went to them and said, keep it quiet until we tell you, and they all follow it, that's a long term. I don't have a problem with that. Don't send people home in body bags because you want to report the news first. Even though it's an unlawful action. No, you don't mess around with sons and husbands of people and get them killed.
Well, and that's where
somebody made $400,000.
Well, and I don't appreciate as much as I don't appreciate what happened there. I also don't appreciate people are talking about the Russians have now sent some special operatives to Venezuela to kind of protect some of their assets that are over there, and people have been made light about them wiping the floor with the Marines that are stationed over there, and we should never. I don't care what side of the thing you're on. Marines have nothing to do with the decision-making process of the leaders that are above them. I was like, you should never be rooting for those guys to get freaking wiped out.
No.
I was like, you shouldn't be rooting for anybody to get wiped out. But I'm just sitting there and like, that's disgusting. That's awful. That's your response to this? Awful. Those guys have no say in what's going on. It's all for oil. It's all for, and I'm really upset again that he made those threats at Cuba, at Colombia.
Yeah.
And I don't like that now Greenland has come back into the conversation.
Why Greenland's I can tell you why Greenland's a conversation.
No, I know why Greenland's a conversation.
You tell me why Greenland's a conversation.
Because so you go and get Venezuela, which is the particular type of oil.
It's heavy. So Venezuela has heavy crude.
Right.
Heavy crude is I think the only place on the planet that can process heavy crude is Texas and Louisiana refinery. In fact, all those Gulf refineries were built to process heavy crude. And I don't know like literally what the difference is, but most American continental crude is what they call light sweet crude. I think it's a density thing or something. And you cannot run the same oil through different refineries. You can run sweet crude through or light crude through heavy crude refineries, but it's so inefficient that it ends up costing you a bunch of money. So you don't do it.
And then, so you have that in Venezuela, the heavy crude.
Well, they also have like gold and other deposits. Like they have a huge untapped gold deposit apparently.
And then you have the minerals in Greenland that are used for the microchips, correct?
There's that reason. There's another reason. If you look on a map, if you look on a globe, the
globe's not helpful, right? Or no, the map.
If you look on a polar map, all of the long-range bombers that come out of Russia that would be a threat to the United States have to cross over Greenland in order to get there.
Mm.
I just saw a map of this like today or the day before. It's literally like there's only one way that you either go like on the west or east side of Greenland to cross over to then fire your missiles or whatever to then send over to the United States. And so there's this thought that we're like taking that off the board. Like you can't, then you take the bombers off there. And then if we know that the missiles are going over that point too, we can like single in on like knocking them down with anti-ballistic missiles or something like that. But there is a military point to that. But I find that silly. I just don't think Russia's looking to end this. I think Russia just wants us to stay out of their business. Russia's like, look, you have Mexico and all this other stuff. Like, why can't we just have Ukraine where we don't have...
I mean, again, I don't like them taking Ukraine.
I don't like them invading, but I also don't... I understand why they felt intruded on.
Yeah, I understand why they feel intruded on.
We felt that same way when the Soviets were trying to put missiles on Cuba.
Yeah, and I don't... Well, and we were putting them in Turkey.
Yes, well, that's the part that's left out of that story is we put them in Turkey first.
Yeah, I know that we put them in Turkey first. But now it's also the same thing with... again, what takes that? What keeps Russia from taking Zelensky? What now keeps China from like? Okay, we're gonna play that way.
They could.
We're calling the bluff on UN, sitting there and saying that the UN
leader of the Philippines. I mean, that's what I would do if I'm China. I take the leader of Philippines first before I even take care of China, take care of Taiwan, because now it's like now you're surrounded.
It's ridiculous.
This is why it was law that U.S. presidents were not allowed to assassinate leaders, because the thought always was like, yeah, we could pull it off, but you don't do it, because once you do, then you open Pandora's box.
And that's what you've done. You've
now that I'm not saying that we haven't actually assassinated. I think we have quietly like figured out ways to, do someone in without being like, so I think someone assassinated. Like, I think, CIA is possible.
Yeah, but I view
but you don't openly like shoot someone in a street and be like, yeah, we did that.
And I view this as something on that level.
I totally agree.
This is basically an open assassination of a leader, where we've sat there and said, we don't like you in charge, and so we're taking you away.
Yeah, this is and so look, if you're listening to us and you're like, yeah, that's fine. I want my country to be big and strong, and my I don't believe in international law. That's a joke. And at the end of the day, it's might makes right, and big dog wins. Okay, that's fine. But I think there's a level of that's how the world works. The problem is does this open up to where the world openly acts this way?
Yeah, at least when we fucking did it in South Korea, it was our own guy.
Oh yeah, I mean we
at least when we did it in Iran before, it was our own fucking guy.
Yeah, we're not being naive to think that we don't like remove people, but to just come in and like snatch them and then take them to Manhattan for processing on a lot of trumped up charges. Like I know he's been indicted, but again, you can indict a ham sandwich. I don't know what narco terrorism is. There's nothing in the law that says that that's called narco terrorism. I guess he's being accused of.
Yeah, and again, you look at there's a lot of positive. There has been a lot of positive feedback from a lot of Venezuelans that are happy about that guy being gone. But again, I don't know what the.
There's also reports of gangs running wild in the country.
Yeah, I don't have a finger on the pulse of what the fuck is going on over there. Like,
okay, that was my other big problem. Was MAGA, who was supporting this, was like, this was the greatest military operation of all time. I'm like, look, it did.
It's a pretty impressive military operation.
It is, but
take that guy alive.
It is, but
like, boom, boom.
We've never not been good at taking down governments. It's been the thing after we've taken down a government that's been our problem. We didn't have a problem taking down Saddam or his government. We didn't have a hard time taking down the Taliban. We didn't have a hard time we didn't have a hard time taking down the Somali government when Bush went in there. Bush 1 went in 92. It was always the aftermath of how do you fill the vacuum? And I don't think it's going to be as bad as what I've seen some people say, but I also don't think it's going to be swimmingly like Trump makes out to be. Like, if someone gets in the way, we'll just blow him up and like nuke him or whatever. Like, okay, good luck with that. At some point, the Venezuelan people are going to be like, I don't care how much of a asshole this leader is. You don't come in and tell me what to do.
Well, have you seen now that the Colombian?
Yeah, he's all mouthy, and then Trump's threatening him.
Well, Trump threatened him first, and then he went mouthy back, and it was like, oh.
Well, and the Mexico leader's the same way.
What?
Which God help us if that happens, because it's already bad enough. But there's some level of, at least I would assume Mexico City is at least under the control of the federal government. Like, come on.
Awful.
Look, this is like
awful week in world politics. If you're excited about this, I can't even like.
Yeah, if you're listening and you're a really good friend of the show and you're excited, I have to say I disagree and I'm a bit disappointed.
I strongly disagree, and I don't have. I wish we could have a conversation to which you can explain to me what makes this so exciting. What makes this so great?
This is straight up like.
It was the most nearsighted thing that I've ever seen in my life.
But Look, this is straight up just Caesarism. I mean, we're Rome. We are now clearly Rome, where it's like Caesar does what he wants, and the Senate, our Congress just sits back and goes, okay. And yeah, the opposition party, that's what just makes it even worse. Like the Democrats are up in arms. I'm like, fuck you. You didn't do anything when Obama was in charge and took down Libya. So you're not the person to be criticizing this. Like if you wanted to exercise congressional power over the president's ability to go to war, that ship sailed long ago.
But wasn't the guy in Libya also, wasn't he on the UN list?
No.
Oh, I thought he was.
No, we went to Gaddafi and during the war on terror, we went to Gaddafi and said, you turn over all of your nuke and chemical stuff and we guarantee you're going to be in office. And then one day, Hillary Pantsuit decided she wanted to get rid of Gaddafi, and then we got rid of Gaddafi, and he literally got sodomized to death in the middle of Tripoli. And I mean, that was one of the moments where Putin was like, fuck these guys. They make a deal, and then you literally get sodomized to death. I don't want anything to do with the United States. And, everyone's the people who love this are running around like, oh, this is a projection of power. People are now going to tremble. And I'm like, if you think this has anything to do with China or Russia, you're delusional. All this shows is, yes, in the Western Hemisphere, near our shores, we can exert really, really good military power. This doesn't translate at all the way across the Pacific to the other side on China shores in all of those things. In fact, this should be a lesson to us if we think we can defend Taiwan against China. It's be like, well, bitch, let's see what you can do when I'm right across. I mean, China's even closer to Taiwan than we are to Venezuela. But I'm reading all the places like, oh, China should be shaking in their boots to see what the military can do. What did we do? We sent in the hostage and rescue team from FBI, basically, and snatched the dude up while everyone was pretending to be asleep.
We should not be proud of overthrowing governments. We should not be proud of that.
No.
That's not and
this is where elections and freedom get in our way of our sanctimonious idea. Like, well, it's better to just look again, like overthrowing a government for then some government picked by Yankees. I don't think the average Venezuelan is going to be thrilled by that.
Well, and here's my thing and I've never said this seriously about any other president in my lifetime. And I mean, you can sit there and say what you said about Obama. I wasn't really like, I mean, I was in high school, so there were things that I couldn't fully grasp or whatever in middle school for whenever you're talking about and stuff. This is impeachment worthy. Like, I'm sorry. Like,
I think every president since Obama should have been impeached. But look, here's what you finish, and then I'm gonna agree and then disagree. But go ahead.
I'm saying that this is impeachment worthy. I think that you have put the international world and the United States in a higher risk situation than it ever should have been. I believe that you have now endangered the next decade of American lives by making this move. There were certain things before where it was like, all right, we have justification, blah, blah, blah. I still see no justification for this. And then you get up in a press conference and you sit there and say that it's basically for fucking oil. We're going to run the oil companies. You say that. You don't even hide it. You don't even use it.
That's the thing. I don't know whether to give him credit for like saying the thing out loud or for being like, you're a fucking moron. At least under the Biden administration and that geriatric who didn't know what day it was, the people around him knew how to lie well enough to where the press would be like, well, we've been told it was for this, and so therefore it's got to be this and such. Like, again, I don't know if I give Trump credit for just saying the quiet part out loud or just being like, man, you're really bad at this.
Yeah, you're really fucking dumb. Because again, we're playing politics, you dumbass. And it's not just, we're not an isolated entity. You fucking dumbass. Like, everyone else in the world sees you get up in that press conference and just said, yeah, I just wanted their fucking oil.
Did you see the video of Trump on Air Force One and Lindsey Graham standing next to him? And Trump's asked about like Mexico or Colombia. And he's asked about doing it to another country. And he's basically what you said earlier. Like, he's like, well, if we have to, we're going to do it. I swear to God, Lindsey Graham got this look on his face like he ejaculated in his pants over that. And I'm like, you are an evil man. He gets so giddy over the use of over killing people.
But that's also, but hearing Trump say that is where I'm like, get this guy out of the fucking office.
I agree.
Like, that's, if you're so fired up for that shit, that scares the fuck out of me.
Okay, here's my problem with the impeachment thing. I agree with you. I don't really have a problem.
Well, and I mean, listen, I'm also the type of just like, it doesn't, like you talked about with the regime change. Yes, the impeachment of him then means that the vice president then becomes the president. And I know that you like,
I don't know about Vance. I mean, what the stuff Vance was tweeting over the weekend in defense of this was like third grade horseshit. So I think I'm out on Vance at this point. Like,
I think I got out on Vance.
We had a conversation about Vance on Friday at the brewery, and I defended him, and because I said I defended Vance because he gets criticism from people like me. Well, I don't criticize him, but people who are closer to me to say like, how are you defending? Why aren't you criticizing the president? To which my thing is, he's vice president. His job is to shut his mouth. You don't get to be the shadow government and criticize the president. That said, most vice presidents keep their mouth shut too and don't say anything. They're usually quiet, and this one's very open about his support. And so if he was quiet and shut his mouth and didn't say anything, and then when he runs in 2 years, comes out and says, like, I disagree with Donald on this, and I disagree with Trump on this, and I disagree with the president on that, and the reason why I didn't say anything, because I did my job, which was a loyal vice president, which at the end of the day is the guy who is constitutionally going to replace the big guy. That's my only job. And so my job wasn't to sit there and criticize him, but I can tell you now, I disagree with everything. He can't do that at this point. He has sucked dick on everything. Sorry. He has sucked dick on everything and just lapped everything up there. I'm like, I'm not, if he comes out and be like, oh, I disagree with the president on this, I'm not going to buy it. It's bullshit. Yeah.
And actually the thing where I actually was out on Vance, we talked about it on the podcast. I liked him and Ward going at it. I thought that he spoke very eloquently in their debate. I was kind of like how you felt, where it was like, oh, this guy seems like he's got a good head on his shoulders. There's something going on here. He's very logical. He's doing all this, blah, 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 blah. But actually, when I kind of got out on Vance was when he was so upset about Zelensky not wearing a fucking suit to the White House. I was like, bitch, what are you on? Like,
I actually kind of agree with him on that. Like, you show up at the White House, everyone's expected to wear a suit at the White House.
No, but then Donald and all this stuff, and about how, like, again, the new wing, like, all of his stuff is gold. Like, it's all vanity. Like, all of it is vanity.
I think now he's close enough that he's willing to do whatever he's got to do to get elected. And I didn't think he was that guy before. The guy before I thought was the hillbilly elegy guy, where he spoke for the Trump voter who didn't vote for Trump before, or didn't vote ever, didn't vote for Trump before or Republican before, but just never voted. I thought he was that guy. And no, he is the bitch of Paul Singer and Peter Thiel and all these big donor and Madam Adelson. And he's going to do whatever he's got to do to get elected. And rather than try to shape what the Trump coalition is, he's just going to go along with what the Trump coalition is. And it's disappointing. Yeah, my pushback, which isn't really a pushback, is on the impeachment, is I have a little problem. Look, it matters who's in charge. And if Trump were to get impeached next year by Democrats, I would have some sympathy for you can't impeach me now because now you have power. The fact of the matter is the Republicans didn't assert that power when they were in charge, and you can't go ahead and impeach me now a year later. Now, there are no laws or rules about impeachment, so they can do whatever the hell they want. And ultimately, I think it's important to point that out. That's another thing. I have read so many conservative constitutional pundits from like National Review and whatever who claim to be textualists or literalists of the Constitution saying, oh, the president has full power to do what he just did without Congress. And I'm like, what the hell are you talking about? That's insane. The Constitution allows the president to act without Congress if the country is attacked. That's basically it. That's how the Constitution should be read. Other than that, he should be getting congressional approval. And I'll back myself up here. What led to the American Revolution was what was called the 7 Years' War in Europe, what we called the French and Indian War. And the French and Indian War, the continental, the U.S., North American part of that war between the Great Britain and France, the French and Indian War, cost so much money that Parliament passed all these taxes, which then led to the revolution. Which is funny. I mean, our Declaration of Independence blames King George for all of the transgressions, but actually the British Parliament was just as involved. It was basically the island of Britain decided to go to war against France, included the colonies in the war, and then said, oh, by the way, colonies, you didn't vote on this, but now we're going to tax you up the yin-yang in order to pay for the war that you didn't have any. That was really didn't have anything to, as eloquent as we love the Declaration to be, this diatribe against a tyrant king, Parliament was just as bad. I bring that up because Parliament had to pass the spending laws in order to support the 7 years or American French and Indian War, the money to support the war. The king just didn't get to do it. So you're telling me that when the Constitution was framed, the framers sat down and said, let's replace the system that we have with a thing where a president can really act like a king and just do whatever the hell he wants when it comes to the military. No, that's crazy. That's insane. So no, there's no way where a president can go in, snatch up a leader from a country, say, we're going to run the country until we deem that we can put in a person we like, and have the power and the purse to do that without Congress weighing in.
It's fucking crazy.
So if the Republicans want to sit on with their thumbs in their asses and do nothing, one, I'm not voting for you anymore because you're just as much big government as the other guys. And when the Democrats come in, as much as I despise them and think that they're hypocrites because they didn't step in when Obama invaded Syria and Libya, I'm going to vote for it because for fuck's sake, somebody needs to stand up and say no more of this shit. That's why Trump got elected. No more regime change wars.
Exactly. That was like...
He said it over and over and over again, not just the first time he got elected, but the second time. That was one of the big things that he said over again. We're not doing what Hillary's done, which is regime change wars. Regime change wars, regime change wars, regime change wars. And now we're in this thing where I don't know if it's incompetence or it's just the ultimate hypocrisy where it's like one day it's a regime change war because we changed the leader. And then once everyone started pointing out, well, actually the vice president has said she's not going to go along with this. Well, it's not actually a regime change war. We just changed the head of the government, but still the commies are in charge. I'm like, so you're just, the ground is shifting under you all the time. And yet but everyone who's just sitting there cheering and being like, fuck yeah, military's back, man. Love it. Military's back. Yeah. Stop watching fucking war movies. That's not what makes America great. Stop it. And the same government that will use the military power to go remove a leader will show up one day and remove your kid from your house because you don't do something they don't like, or take your business away, or tax you or whatever, or yes, if you own guns, try to take your guns, or tell you can't say certain things against the government because of COVID or whatever. You can't have things both ways.
And I've never, and I've got, again, I've been vocal on this podcast before about, and I don't like making those parallels, and so I'm not going to say it out loud, but I'm not going to say the words out loud, but I've been vocal about how my family or certain members of my family view this, or have viewed the president and the language they've used about people that support the president and all that kind of stuff. And I don't want to put those words out there because, again, I view that they're harmful and that it's not helpful. But I have to say, I'm okay. I was always okay with Trump being a dumbass. I was okay with him being, and I'd sit there and I'd be like, okay, he's loud, he's annoying. I was like, he's done some good things, he's done some dumb things, things that I don't agree with, but, like, that's every president for me. Where things have been within the scope of what I view as okay / not okay. Again, for the first time in my lifetime, and again, just based off of his reactions when you talked about, his reaction to some of these questions and what he said, this is the first time ever that I've been like, as an American, I'm afraid of our president and the people in power. Into which I am sitting there and I'm saying that is not something that I, in my opinion, I should be afraid of.
I'm not going to make fun of anybody now who says that they're worried about the election being called off. For one, he mumbled something about it within the last 24 hours about elections being canceled. It's like, well, after you did that, like, I could see you just be like, well, we think the election's going to get stolen, so we're going to cancel it. Sorry, if you're on the right with me and Colton, but you still think that's crazy, I'm sorry, I just don't. This guy seems completely capable of doing whatever the hell he wants to do. We're just stuck in this episode of The Apprentice.
Yeah, this is
again. This is just Rome. We just have Caesars being voted in and out, but it's just Caesars with ineffectual senates behind them, either praising or criticizing them, but doing nothing. This is not a republic anymore. There's the famous phrase, there's the famous interaction, whether it happened or not, doesn't matter. It's apocryphal, certainly, where a woman yells out, "What kind of government did you get us, Mr. Franklin?" And he says, "Republic, if you can keep it, madam." We don't live in a republic anymore. We don't live in a republic. If you think we do, it's childish. I don't think we have for a while, but this is now perfectly clear. And I don't even think we live in a democracy. We live in an oligarchy that is run by big corporations and big business, and everyone who's voting is fooling themselves if they think they're really changing anything. It's all bullshit. It's kabuki theater. Government does whatever the hell they want. And then we argue around the edges.
Yep.
And I'll say, that's not to diminish the edges. The edges at this point are important because the edges are the only thing keeping us from some kind of really crazy thing on the right or the left. So it's not to diminish the edges, but these are two basically mono parties. It's just, I've been thinking a lot lately, like if someone asked me, do you love your country? I don't know how to answer that question. I think I'd say yes.
I love the people in my country.
I love the people in my country. I love the theory of my country. I love the Constitution. I love how it's supposed to interact. I love the land of our country, but it's not the government at all. And that's not because it's Republican or Democrat. It's both. It's disgusting. I don't like the way our economy's run anymore. I think this is not a land. it's just that's what's just so angering about this. This guy was this guy really runs the risk of. Have you seen the polling in the last 2 days since the thing? So I've seen 2 polls, and I was surprised. Both polls had a negative response to the action. I was like, "Oh shit!" I'm shocked because usually Americans are like, "Hell yeah, Uncle Sam, America!" And even on Republican sides, it was even on in Republican and one was a YouGov kind of skews left, but even on the YouGov poll, I want to say Republicans had a net negative view of the action. I was like, oh hell, we might have some hope here,
dude. I agree. I don't have any. If people tell me that they're afraid of Trump now, I don't. I'm not going to be like I've never rolled my eyes at him before, but it's at this point I have now something to toss in the ring. You know.
Yeah.
I was like, this isn't. I don't care if this guy's a bad guy. There's a fuck ton of them out there.
Yeah, no, that's not an excuse.
It's not an excuse. If we're gonna go after like somebody that constantly makes threats at the United States and does whatever, then go take fucking Kim out of power in fucking North Korea.
Yeah, well, I mean, to quote the vice president has been saying that it's our oil because we built the refineries there, and that's not. I mean, yeah, so that's true, but he's leaving. So I'm going to post a primer. There's a Substack primer that gives you basically. It's not a lot. It's not like 10,000 words or 5,000 words. It's just basically like very succinct. How did we get here with Venezuela and the oil? And yes, American companies went in and built the oil refineries or the oil wells in Venezuela. But at some point, the Venezuelan government bought half of Citgo and the controlling interest of Citgo. And a lot of conservatives want to make it out like they just took it. Now, when Hugo Chavez took over, yes. He then took over all of Citgo.
Interesting.
But you don't remedy that by then just like what the U.S. government did under, I don't remember if it was under Trump or Biden. I think it was under Trump. I think it was done in 2020 at the end of Trump's first term. The Trump administration basically went to court and asked a U.S. court to. Sorry, I can't remember all this. I think they asked them to basically put Citgo in U.S. probate court and say like nobody owns it, and so basically it was put up on U.S. probate bankruptcy court. To which this Paul Singer guy, who's like Trump's number 2 donor, who's given like $250 million to Trump and Republicans, buys Citgo, and bingo, the guy who owns Citgo, who's Trump's number 1 top donor, one of his top donors, then is now going to reap the benefits of selling that oil to U.S. refineries in Louisiana and Texas because they need heavy crude to produce. And so, this is a Christian show. I just, if you're hearing all that and you're like, I don't have a problem with that. I'm an American. I want my economy to work, and I have daughters that need to go to college and yada yada yada. I've heard all these answers, and they're not irrational, but we're not allowed to be rational as Christians. We're called to a better place than that. And I'm not naive enough to think that the U.S. federal government, even though we hear this trope of we're a Christian nation, it's bullshit. We've never been a Christian nation. I don't expect our government to act like Jesus. I still expect more. And I don't think going in and just taking things from another country there should be a level. Even though I don't expect us to act like Jesus, I do think, yes, there should be a level of the golden rule even with countries. which again, that goes to my whole problem with like Ukraine and Russia. Like, you guys want to make like if Russia came in and rigged an election to make a pro-Russian government take over Mexico, does anyone think Americans wouldn't freak the hell out about that? Of course we would. This is literally what we did with Ukraine. The golden rule tells me, one, I shouldn't do that, and two, the world works better when I don't do that, because then we descend into Lord of the Flies. And Lord of the Flies works when you are the superpower. And I'm sorry, going in and doing some snatch and grab Delta Force thing and we drop a bunch of bombs and kill 80 Venezuelans and Cubans doesn't mean we can do fuck all against the Russians and the Chinese. It doesn't. It's a whole other level of warfare. And I don't think they're quaking in their boots by it. They're like, oh, wow, yeah, you can do special forces things. Really cool. Awesome. Try that in Moscow or Beijing. You'll get, you'll lose an aircraft carrier.
Well, I mean,
and I don't think anyone in Washington
I
don't think anyone in Washington actually thinks that's possible.
I don't think so either. But I do think, well, if you know Putin and how he operates, I do think that this makes Putin probably 10 times more paranoid, and the guy's already
particularly since we just tried to blow up his house with drones.
And that guy's 10 times more paranoid than the most paranoid person on the planet. That guy, like, literally just like,
I would say he's craftier than everybody and smarter, and he's a hell of a lot smarter than Trump.
Yeah, he's smart and he's crafty, but also the guy like never like sleeps in the same.
Yeah, he knows what he's up to.
He doesn't sleep. He is adamant about not dying, but like he doesn't sleep in the same bed like every night. Like he moves locations because he like won't stay in certain locations for longer than a certain amount of time because he's legitimately afraid of somebody taking his life. But here's the thing about that. If you're sitting there and like, yeah, that better put him on notice and make it even worse for him. And I was like, people do worse shit when they are more paranoid.
Yeah, when the rat's in the time to worry about the rat is when the rat's cornered.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, when it's running away, you don't got a problem.
Matt and mice do incredible things in a garage when they don't think they can get out. They like tear through anything. Also, just putting Russia aside, anybody who knows a modicum of North and South American history knows that when the U.S. intervenes, it never goes well.
Panama.
We have sent Marines for over the last century. We've sent Marines into the Dominican, Haiti, Panama.
Well, never worked out. Panama is the one where it worked out. That was the one that I was.
That's because we had a military base there.
Yeah, I know, but you said it.
You're
never
correct.
Works out.
It worked.
Like,
that one worked.
Technically, Panama.
Panama worked.
That's the only. It's the only one I'm giving us. Like so if you're gonna if we're gonna sit there and evaluate, I'll sit there and say Panama is the one where it's like they're now one of the most prominent.
Well, they're not an ally. I mean, they sold the canal to China. So
yeah, bastards. No,
but again, Dominica. The Dominican Republic, Haiti, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Mexico, Honduras, Colombia, Venezuela. I mean, we've been in Venezuela before. Like, it never goes well for us because a good third, half the population doesn't want Yankee being there telling them what to do.
Newsflash. That's every fucking country. Like,
yeah, exactly.
That's every fucking country. Greenland doesn't want us there. Mexico doesn't want us there. Canada doesn't want us there. So don't fucking go there.
Yeah, I heard somebody on another podcast like 3 weeks ago. I don't remember what country they were talking about, but they were talking about overthrowing. I think they were talking about throwing Iran, and one of the co-hosts was like, "Don't think for a minute that Red Dawn is because the Soviets or in the new one, the North Koreans overthrew a democratic republic. I don't care what government you overthrow. You overthrow a communist government in the United States, fucking Red Dawn's happening where people are like, you don't get to come here and take over my country.
Yeah.
Get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
You know what I don't want is Nicaraguans and Soviets running my country. I don't care what political philosophy you have. You know what I don't want is Chinese and North Koreans running the West Coast.
Yeah,
Get the hell out of here.
Yeah, the only country that's pussy enough for that shit is fucking France, dude.
Actually, the French aren't. We give the French. Yeah. Well,
They say
they lost two.
They say you can run us. We don't care.
Country people just don't. We act like we're the ones with patriotism and then but like, whoa, sure, I'm so shocked. These people are proud to be Colombians. You know who's left in Venezuela? The people didn't leave Venezuela. They're probably really proud about being in Venezuela because apparently a lot of them came here over the last 10 years.
Yeah, again, I don't have a finger on the pulse of what's going on in Venezuela, and I don't think American media has a finger on the pulse of what's going on in Venezuela. So I'd be skeptical if you're sitting there and seeing positive or negative remarks about what I'm sure both of those things are happening in Venezuela. I do. One of the positive.
I just know
if you want to take one positive sign from it, I mean, you can. It could just be Venezuela is just like, well, we can't fucking do anything. We know that if we go to war with the United States, we're going to fucking lose. So that could be one of where it's like, all right, so how do we save X, Y, and Z? But also at the same time, the fact that they're not putting up a huge fight for him at the moment is, you can sit there and you could put that feather in your cap if you want, I guess.
Okay, but look, there's only two ways to solve the problem. And they expose the hypocrisy and the whole kabuki theater of this thing. The only way to prevent this from going pear-shaped is for either the Venezuelan military or the U.S. military to take control, in my view. And so then you're right back to a dictatorship. But it's our guy.
Exactly.
But we're going to pretend like, oh, no, they were elected. But no. There's a strong man in the street who's rolling people up when they speak out against the anti-Yankee government. Like, well, no, we're going to talk about that. Like, again, this is like, look, I don't want to. Let's stop living in Disney foreign policy world where everybody's just like, oh, it's a free country. No, the only way out of this when you do what we just did, the only way to solve the problem is putting in another strong man. And also, do you want another beer?
Well, I felt like we were pretty much wrapping up on this.
We can wrap up, yeah.
No, I'm not saying that we need to wrap up. I just felt like we were pretty close to the end. No? Did you have something else that we need to unpack on it? I was like...
no.
I think... And we've been running military operations in South America for a really long time. There's people that hide out there. A lot of those South American countries ask for the Marines to come down and help them with certain operations, that kind of stuff. We've done several operations in Venezuela, Brazil, Chile, Colombia, done a lot in Colombia, El Salvador, Mexico even. That's not uncommon. So it's not like we don't already have a hand in those areas. So if you know that information, but yet nobody that I've talked to has ever brought up that aspect, we've had a presence throughout South America for a long period now. I personally know Marines who have done operations in those areas, and that's just Marines. We're not talking Delta Force. We're not talking about SEAL Team 6 or anything like that. We're talking about everybody knows, like, we have permission to be there. We're supposed to be there, that kind of stuff. We're working with a certain organization or we're working with the government, do X, Y, and Z. It's so again, if you want to sit there and say, well, we're able to do this or that, again, it comes down to me, what it comes down to for Trump is, I did this for oil. And so, again, what's going to stop him from doing it for Greenland? What's going to stop him from doing it for Mexico? What's going to stop him from doing it for Canada? What stops him? He just proved that there's nothing that will stop him. Who's going to?
So you just brought up Canada. Apparently in Canada, like the Canadian Supreme Court or something I think it was the Canadian Supreme Court ruled that some large swath of Canada is owned by by Native Americans.
Mm.
And so Trump is actively going to them, offering to pay them for their land to join the United States. I kid you not.
And
It's
again,
not a Babylon Bee story.
Well,
I
I
don't think anything's going to happen of it, but it's like, all
well,
right.
and okay, so I don't actually have I like Canada, and if they wanted to be a part of the United States, I'd vote for it and say yeah. But they don't want to, and so therefore I say no. Like, if it was
Yeah.
something that they wanted, then and that's the same thing with
Who
Venezuela.
wouldn't want to be fellow citizens with Shorzy?
Yeah. I like Canadians. I like Venezuelans. If Venezuela was like, we need help.
Yeah, Greenland's just wild. Because that one just came out of nowhere.
Yeah,
like,
that's on nobody's fucking radar.
No
and they're
one
just
had that
out
on
of
the radar.
and
Like,
they-
I don't know
Well,
where.
I also feel like Canada was out of nowhere too. Where it was
I
just
don't
like,
know where he got that bug up his ass, but he just got like all of a sudden it was Greenland. Like even people on the right were like, "What the hell is he talking
it
about?"
was some military tactician got that shit in his head, and then he's just like, "Oh no, it makes a lot of sense."
Oh, I think he had a military guy who pointed out what I said, and then what you said. He had like Peter Thiel come in, and
Yeah.
Peter Thiel was like, "Mr. President, the future of America is going to be cobalt and other high because we need to make this, and this for
Yeah, if
our
I
AI
was
technologies and mobile phones, and so the highest ratio of that is Greenland. So therefore, we need to. This is like
if I was playing fucking Risk, I'd go for those countries.
also but there's no empire here to just move along. We're not an empire.
I'd be like, oh man, my buddy's got Russia and he's got all this territory with all of his red characters. All right, I better expand out while he's only got one guy posted here. So I'm going to go up and I'm going to roll the dice and go take this one. But we're not playing fucking Risk, dude. Like, oh my gosh. So dumb. This whole thing's dumb.
One more thing. The Monroe Doctrine keeps being brought up. Like this is renewing the Monroe Doctrine. And I would say 99% of the people who bring this up.
I don't know how, I don't know if I could literally roll my eyes all the way around, but I would if I could.
These are people who are paid to like think about politics every day. They haven't read the Monroe Doctrine. The Monroe Doctrine was European powers stop interfering in our hemisphere. There's no more meddling. If Colony X wants to become free, they get to become free. Get the hell out of here. And also, we're not going to interfere either. Part of the Monroe Doctrine was we're not interfering with other countries.
That's international law.
But somehow Trump is like, no, Monroe Doctrine was everyone stay, Western Hemisphere is ours, and everyone else can just, we can do whatever we want, and everyone else can go suck sand. That's not what the Monroe Doctrine is. And if that's what the Dunroe, whatever they're calling it, doctrine is, I don't want any part of it.
That's, again, that's...
I don't want to live in an empire. Empires are antithetical to freedom. They're antithetical to religion. Empires only want fealty to the empire.
And that's why, for the first time ever in my life, I've sat there and I've been like, I do not want you to serve out the rest of your 3 years here.
Yeah, I agree. I'm not gonna vote I'm gonna let the I'm not. I don't know if I'm gonna vote anymore. It just seems just pointless. Everyone's a dipshit. Everyone's corrupt. But if he gets impeached, the first two impeachments I thought were over the top for a variety of reasons. But this one I'm gonna be like, yeah, whatever. You've done enough things in your first term. Suck on it. I don't care. I mean, because this isn't the only thing he's done that's just ridiculous. Like, he has no statutory ability to call it the Department of War. That only Congress can do that. I mean, there's just so many things where he's just been like, yeah, whatever, I'm going to just do this. I mean, like,
I'm not saying that you haven't
start printing the $250 bill because the Trump with his name, with his face on it, because it's the 250th year of the Constitution, but yet the law clearly says you can't put someone who's alive on any currency. It was like, yeah, whatever. Trump doesn't matter. I'd impeach him over that because, again, shit matters. If you're going to break that law, then what other laws you're going to break?
Yeah, fucking. Here's how it goes in Congress. It says here on the paper that you're impeaching him for being a narcissist.
Yeah, well,
be like, yeah, that's good enough. Like, at this point, it's shown that it's good enough. Like,
yeah, well, he renamed the Kennedy Center the Trump Kennedy Center.
His White House renovation is like,
supposedly that's all being paid by private, but I don't know if I don't
have a problem with it being paid by whatever. I was like, if my tax dollars are going to that, fucking whatever. I was like, I'm also tired of people being like breaking it, like when they're like, this is how much it costs and this is how much my tax dollars are going to that. And I'm like, okay, let's actually do the math. Let's talk about. I was like, let's do the math on your tax dollars and how significant your tax money actually is to all of those things. So, like, if you're upset about paying for welfare and all these people that are hijacking the welfare system, and I was like, even if you're making $100,000 a year and however much money you're making, which a lot of you aren't making $100,000 a year, you can do the math for it. It's really actually about 10 cents of your entire tax budget is actually going towards paying for that person.
At this point, I don't care what people are paying. Let's just not pay the $3 trillion above what we're bringing in.
Yeah. So, I mean, and that's where I was like, there's a lot of things where I was like, if you want to know what most of your tax dollars is going to, it's actually the military. So, so
it's military and covering what we don't get to cover for Social Security and Medicare. That's most of it.
And so it's like, okay. And
now, I will say,
do your price. I was like, you went to high school. It's really basic math, actually. You can figure out how much the government pays for that, how much your contribution of your tax dollars goes to that certain percentage of things. And then you can try and figure it out from there. And then you'll find out that actually you're not really paying that much for those things. It's like $1.
Yeah, I don't like that argument. What the corollary to that though is, it's usually Republicans who are worse about this than Democrats.
Absolutely, it's Republicans.
It's ex-politician promises to get rid of all these things we don't need in the budget, and then we come around and it's like, oh, we're going to pay for the NEA again, and we're going to pay for NPR, and the voters flip out about it, and then you'll read something in the National Review like, well, actually, it only accounts for this part of the budget. Anyone who's ever done budgeting will tell you if you can't cut the cup of coffee that you can't afford, you're not going to get serious about your budget. So that was actually that argument.
That was my biggest issue with the government shutdown was you went through and you went through and did the cleansing or whatever. You know, you went through and you looked at everybody and was like, all right, these people need to be let go. You know, we have this power creep, which I fully agree happens. I'm not sitting there and saying that that's not true. So you look over the entire government and say, these are the jobs that are necessary. These are the ones that are not. We need to be eliminating this, eliminating that. But then somehow you present a budget that's actually more expensive.
Yeah.
And that's what you come up with? Like, what the fuck is that? And you're like, oh, no, it has to be this. And so, well, and that was the whole thing where it was like,
Washington, D.C. is most Isley.
It was so dumb.
There's not a, what's the line?
We're going to save all this money, but at the same time, we're going to build the Golden Dome.
Yeah. Yeah, we're still going to have that Israel money in there.
So dumb.
Yeah.
So, yeah, at this point, if anybody says impeach Donald Trump, I'd sit there. This will be the first time that I ever like throw my towel in with that and sit there and say, yeah, I don't blame you. I'm not going to go protest or anything like that. But if it came down to a vote that actually mattered to the American people, it doesn't come down to me. But if it did, and they were like, all right, Americans, vote on whether or not this guy should no longer be in office, I would vote this guy should no longer be in office.
Yeah. Because lied.
Before that, I would have been indifferent and probably wouldn't have voted on it. I would have been like, nah, whatever. I was like, he does good things, he does bad things, just like every other president.
I generally support impeachments.
But as of what I have seen right now, and again, I know what Obama did, I know what Biden did, I know what Bush did. I completely understand, but his response and the way that he has acted since then, That shit doesn't fly with me.
Well, okay, I'm going to differ in that I don't care what Obama did. I don't care what Bush did. I don't care what Biden did. They should have been impeached too. And because you're the one being strung up, I don't feel sorry for you. The fact of the matter, someone's finally standing up and impeaching you because you're standing outside. That's the argument of, well, we got to, I mean, I've been reading that all weekend. Presidents have acted this way for a century and a half. I'm like, I don't give a shit about that. That's like arguing, segregation's a thing. We can't get rid of it. Or the right wing's favorite thing of, well, abortion's been the law of the land for half a century. Can't get rid of it. No one believed that. It was all like, what does textualism or originalism say in the Constitution? And both textualism and originalism say that the President of the United States is the commander-in-chief, which means he runs the military after he's been authorized to do something.
I've seen Russell Crowe walk through that field.
Yeah, it's just the wheat was yellow instead of green. Hand over the top.
Fantastic movie. Yeah,
and
we've had that
this
conversation on the podcast before. I don't remember what episode we had it on. It's way back when at this point.
And this is where I have to just kind of tell myself, like, you're in the minority.
But I don't think that you are in the minority.
The average American is not a constitutionalist. They are like, whatever works.
It's the same issue that I had with Prop 50. I have a problem with Prop 50, the same reason that I have a problem with what's going on in Texas.
Correct.
And the same reason why I have a problem with, and if you're not from California, because my grandparents were like, what's Prop 50? And they live in Arizona. And I was like, oh, it was the whole about gerrymandering, the whole thing. And I was like, I'm against this as much as I'm against it there. I'm against it everywhere. An injustice against, I was like, to quote Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., is an injustice anywhere is an injustice against everybody everywhere.
Correct.
And that is what has been done now, is we have created, we had, it's like we went back like 20 years. Like,
no. We went back 300 years. I'm sorry. What happened today?
I was like, you've actually made the claim that we've gone back 2,000 years. And like,
what happened
like, the
last 5 days is completely, you cannot have a free society and do what we did. And if you don't understand that and you're listening to this, I'm sorry. That is this. You cannot have.
You can't promote a free society. You just went against a free society.
Well, even if they were an unfree society, I don't care. Look, there's two. I don't like what we did to Venezuela, whether they had free, fair elections or not. I don't care. One, because I don't really trust the people who are determining that it was a free and fair election. I think a lot of that's baked in, like the wrong guy got voted in, like the guy that the CIA didn't want. I'm sorry, I'm going to say that. Like, we didn't get, because the guy we didn't want got voted in, didn't get voted in. It's not free and fair. So there's part of that. But two, even if the wrong guy got voted in, who made us God to go in and be like, we're going to overthrow you?
Yeah, that's not how that works. Yeah.
And then, okay, well, it's about drugs. Okay. Why did we make our problem Venezuela's problem?
Well, and again,
does anyone think that overthrowing him is going to at all stop the flow of drugs to here to meet our huge avarice for drugs in this country? No.
Well, he's the leader of De La Soul,
which they have now removed from the charging documents and saying that doesn't exist. You know why they removed that from the charging documents? Because the Casa de Sol or whatever that thing is got started by the fucking CIA.
Oh, that's crazy.
As a drug and weapons running organization.
Yeah, we're taking.
We create problems everywhere and then make it some poor bastard in Venezuela's problem.
Yeah, we're turning out to be early colonial British. We create an opioid problem in fucking China.
Yeah. Late colonial, but yeah.
Yeah, and we're just gonna sit there.
Now we're gonna start a war in China.
Yeah, exactly. And we don't understand why they're in unrest, but we don't want any opioids in Britain. Stop bringing that shit over here. It's bad for us.
You know what's happened since the Taliban overthrew us a couple years ago? Or we left and then they took over? Heroin production has dropped like 90% in the world. Because you can say what you will about the Taliban, and I have a lot of problems with their worldview. They don't tolerate heroin production. But when the U.S. was there, we didn't give two shits about heroin, not only heroin production, but exportation to Europe and the United States. Heroin production was being guarded by the U.S. military when we were in Afghanistan.
Yep.
And yet look, again, I'm not asking for everyone to wake up and feel like we're in a shitty country. You can have all kinds of sins. We had all kinds of sins. That is how the world works. That's where I just want everyone to be adults and stop living in a fantasy world of U.S. post World War II propaganda through like the 1960s. Where everything, Uncle Sam and we're saving the world and blah, 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 blah. Like, stop. Everyone needs to grow the hell up. I don't think we were ever that. And if we were, it was a very short period of time because basically the guy we were fighting was worse than we were. But if you have some notion that the Japanese just attacked us on Pearl Harbor and we had nothing to do with that, grow up. We had a hand in that, in putting them in a corner. And, you don't have to lose faith in the United States and be like, I'm not proud of this country when you have a more mature view of history. But as of right now, yeah, I don't feel very good about being an American because we've got... Would you feel any better if this felt like it was being run better and like someone actually knew what the hell was going on? You'd be like, well, it's cynical as fuck, but at least they're competent about it. And the hard part is knowing whether or not it's actually being done competently, like at the State Department, at the CIA, and the DOD, but Trump's up there contradicting himself every couple of hours, or if it's just being incompetently done.
No, I don't even know if it's incompetently done. It's just more of, again, it's so narcissistic in thinking, and again,
it's just so weird not to see a government so cynically stick to a cynical line of thinking and
it's just so, in my opinion, again, the whole Greenland thing totally makes sense. The whole Venezuela thing totally makes sense. Again, I think about it like some motherfucker is over there playing Risk and is just like, these are the two territories that I need to have on my board in order enough to make sure that I am good. I'm good with the two most exclusive items in the world to make sure that I now run this shit if things go south with. And again, Greenland, the reason why we're going to go there is because if shit goes south, and now the way that we've done everything is they've given up on fucking, what's it called? Over there by China.
Taiwan.
Taiwan. I was about to say Thailand, but I was like, that's not right. We've given up on Taiwan. It's
well, because Taiwan's not defensible.
It's not defensible. But Greenland is, and yet we can have an even larger resource there, and so it's sitting there and saying, I now own the two cards to where Russia and China would have had something over me, but now they no longer have anything over me. And so so if you're sitting there and say, is it a lack of competency? No, I completely understand where that comes from a strategic military.
I just mean in the marketing of it.
Oh, in the marketing of it? No, because again,
because most presidents would be more buttoned up. Biden wouldn't be because he would have been mumbling and bumbling things. But Trump just so like he just riffs all the time.
It's just narcissistic. It's just
like Obama would have just like said, this is the thing. And even when people are like, well, there's no drugs coming out, like, well, you don't know what you're talking about. There's all kinds of drugs, and absolutely the emperor has clothes. The emperor might be standing in front of you naked, but he's fully clothed. I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, I think that Donald Trump has a small penis, and therefore he treats everything like he's got to overcompensate. And that's literally, I don't know how anybody else doesn't see it when he talks, like, about some of this shit, where it's just like, dude, what?
No, you're correct. There's a huge level of insecurity.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So I said earlier, a lot of people were like talking about how everyone's got to be shaking in their boots. I don't really think anyone in South America is shaking in their boots, because if I'm the Colombian president, I'm like, if he pulls it against me, then whatever. They don't have anything to charge me on. And then at that point, I already think it's probably more negative in South and Central America than it is positive. I mean, a lot of people were like, well, hell, if you can do that. It's kind of like when the Russian war broke out, when the Ukraine invasion happened, and the United States just started the United States and Europe without any legal authority just started being like, we're taking all of Russia's fiat currency and just taking it for ourselves. The whole rest of the world was like, if you're going to do that, then I don't trust you, and started like pulling all their money out. That's how BRICS got started. I don't think anyone in Tehran is quaking in their boots. I don't think anyone in Beijing or Russia or Moscow are shaking in their boots. I don't really think anyone in South America is shaking.
And from an economic,
I do think if you're in Copenhagen, to your point, if you're in Copenhagen right now, I gotta think twice about whether or not this crazy motherfucker might not actually just land the 82nd Airborne Division in Greenland and take it over.
Now, I mean, you say that I don't think anybody in Russia is quaking in their boots. Again, I will say that, and it's Russia, not China currently, with the United States going into Venezuela, if they do take over the oil, which again, there's speculation about how easy that transition would possibly be.
Right.
Is again, I think that there's somebody upstairs that is thinking, now we have an exclusive market on this oil type that Europeans have been having to buy from Russia for all this time. And so now we can continue to further cripple the Russian economic system by creating a different market with this oil type.
Okay, so that is a good point in the short term, because China was like that. The oil tanker that we seized like a month ago, that was oil destined for China. So yes, we can now start starving China of Venezuelan oil.
Right.
Now, here's where the tricky part is. If you're an oil company and you have to spend $100 million to upgrade, I'm just throwing wild numbers out. I have no idea, but I'm going to say $100 million to upgrade this equipment, because of course, it's a commie government. Governments don't run anything well, so I assume it doesn't work. If I have to do that, I can't fully pump the oil out, because if I do, then the crude oil price drops, and then I'm making less. So this is one of the things that got pointed out by someone who is in the oil trading business of this actually everything's a trade-off. So on the one hand, yes, we get control of Venezuelan oil, quote unquote, somehow, either directly or indirectly.
Right.
But that also means then we are more responsible for the price of oil and can't blame the Saudis.
Yeah.
When oil is $70 a barrel, we can't blame. We've been spending 2 decades blaming Venezuela, largely, not even the Saudis, but blaming Venezuela because oil is, somehow we have a embargo on Venezuela and they can't sell the oil and they're not selling the oil, but also the price of crude is too low because the Venezuelans are selling it. So it's like, get past that contradiction. But now it's actually like, no, it's in your hands. So like, what are you complaining about? Why are you telling me that the oil price of gas is $3.50 in New Jersey? Because that's a heavy price in New Jersey. For here in California,
here everybody be stopping at that gas station.
Right now, it's I think $3.89, and it's like, woo! I'm saving money at the pump.
That's right.
Anything under $4 is found money.
That's right.
It's insane. All right, well, we'll wrap it up there. We hope.
Well, actually, last beer.
Oh yeah.
last beer for the podcast.
This is a really good beer. I should have bought more than this.
Tim likes it. I thought it was okay. I'll explain why I thought it was okay. Smog City, Claremont, Craft Ales. It's the Juicy Roots West Coast IPA. I was drinking it and I was like, why do I taste vanilla?
I didn't taste vanilla.
There's not vanilla. Nope.
Is it banana?
It's coconut cream.
Oh, I didn't read that on the label.
And so it's got a coconut. It does taste like so the can is, if you heard on the podcast while we were picking it up and doing all that kind of stuff, it's supposed to be like an old chewing gum, something stripes, juicy stripes or something.
Stripes.
Yeah, juicy stripes. Even though it's called Juicy Roots West Coast IPA. So it does kind of taste like a juicy fruit kind of thing. So there's kind of like,
I think it's a combination between a juicy IPA and a Belching Beaver IPA, whatever that flavor profile that we talk about in Belching Beaver. I think.
Yeah, and I think
a cross
just
between that.
For me, I could have just done without the coconut. It's just
That's fair. I'm not a big coconut fan myself.
I was like, so that was just my only thing. I was like, it was drinkable. I could have drank another one if I ordered it at a restaurant. I would have been like, oh man, and I didn't have the synopsis under there. I'd be like, it's got this kind of vanilla, kind of milkshake IPA kind of thing for me. I'd be like, it's not my thing. I'd have one, but I wouldn't say anything like bad about it. I'd just be like, I just wouldn't order it again. That's all I would say about it. So.
Well, we're generally like Mikey. Like, it's got to be bad. Like, it's got to be. I think there's like 3 beers we've just utterly deplored.
Oh man, and those are bad.
The Stone is the one I remember.
Yeah, I remember that Stone. I remember that Belching Beaver. And
the Belching Beaver, and then I think there was a third one. But generally, it gets close. It's in the wheelhouse, or it's fair. All right, well, we thank you for listening to this first episode of 2026. I think next episode we're going to talk more about home church and that kind of thing. Got some stuff planned for that, and then we will see where the year takes us. Thanks for listening, and
if you thought that the Pac-12 should have had a spot in the college football playoff, you can go to hell.
The Pac question mark.